Welcome back to Nonetheless, Wired to be Rich, everybody. If you're new here, hi, hello. You picked a very honest and interesting episode to walk into, you guys. And if you've been here, you already know we talk about money, life, and the decisions that actually shape who you become. And sometimes that includes the people you choose. And I'm not even going to ease into this one, you guys, because this one I got to get some things off my chest, because I had a realization recently that genuinely made me sit back and laugh, like a real deep wow moment to myself. I realized that for the past year, I was dating a fucking loser, you guys. And the crazy part is, excuse my language, it didn't feel like that at first. It never does, right? So we're going to talk about how you can be smart, aware, intuitive, and still end up entertaining someone who has absolutely no business being in your space, and how I got to a place where I'm not even searching for love anymore, but I'm still open to it in a completely different way. So without further ado, let's get right into it.
She's not just a podcast host. She's a movement.
Manda Lea is teaching people how to break cycles and build real wealth, mentally, financially, and spiritually.
People all over the world are waking up to her message.
Wired to be Rich isn't just a podcast, it's a mindset shift.
She makes you believe again in yourself, in your power, in your ability to actually have the life you always known was meant for you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Manda Lea, entrepreneur, speaker, and founder of Balance and Destiny, and this is Wired to be Rich. So let's start with the part that nobody really wants to admit, because it requires a level of self-awareness that's a little uncomfortable. It's very easy to look back now and say, oh my God, he was a loser, you guys. But when I really sat with it, I had to ask myself, Manda, why were you even entertaining that in the first place? And when I got super honest with myself and held myself accountable, it wasn't because he was actually that impressive. And this is no shade to him. I'm just really speaking my truth, so stick with me. It was because I was filling in the gaps, you guys. I was taking small things and stretching them into something bigger in my head. And on top of that, I was being actively distracted. Because let's be real, he spent money, trips, gifts, purses, experiences. Like, he was very generous in that way. And in the moment, that felt good, right? It looks good. It almost makes you feel like, okay, maybe I'm being taken care of. Maybe this is what being taken care of looks like. Maybe this is something. And I had to really sit with the fact that that kind of energy can blur your vision if you're not grounded in what actually matters to you or what you actually need. Because now, you're not just looking at the person, you're looking at what they're providing. And those two things can start to get mixed together in your head. And I can admit now that it fed into my perception of him, you guys. It made me more lenient. It made me more open. It made me give things more time than they probably deserved, if I'm being honest, because it felt like effort was being shown, right? Even though it wasn't the right kind of effort. And that's a very real thing that I feel like a lot of us go through, even men. Because someone can overcompensate in one area and it makes you overlook what's missing in another, right? And in this case, the spending almost covered up the lack of depth, the lack of direction, the lack of alignment in how he actually moved and thought, right? And I remember there were still moments where I felt a subtle disconnect, right? Like that quiet feeling where something doesn't fully land, and it's not loud enough for you to immediately walk away, right? It's like what we call yellow flags. They were yellow flags. And instead of listening to that and saying, why is this here? I was negotiating with it in my own head. I was saying things like, maybe he just needs more time. Maybe he's figuring things out. Maybe I'm figuring things out. Maybe I'm being too hard. And looking back, I can see how the external things made it easier to justify staying in that space a little bit longer, because it didn't feel like I was lacking anything on the surface, right? The surface, it was like peaches and cream. But once I stripped all of that away and really looked at him without the trips, without the gifts, without the experiences, I had to ask myself, who is this person really? How does he think? How does he move? What is he actually building? And that's when everything got clear for me very, very fast, because now I'm not looking at what he's giving. I'm looking at who he is. And those are two completely different things. And that's where the epiphany hit me, because I realized I was responding to a combination of potential and provision. Instead of patterns in alignment, I was giving weight to things that felt good in the moment. Instead of asking myself if this person actually matched the level I see for myself long term. And when I finally looked at it from that lens, it was obvious. It was very, very obvious, you guys, that this isn't it. And once you see that, you can't unsee it, because now you understand that someone can give you experiences. It can even spend money on you. They can make things feel exciting on the surface and still not be aligned with who you are or where you're going. Anybody can take you on a nice date. Anybody can book a trip. Anybody can buy a piece of jewelry. Anybody can buy a bag, you guys. But you have to look at who a person is, and don't villainize them for that either, because who they are today is the exact blessing that someone else has been praying for. This is all about you and what you want and what you see for your future. So you have to look at that and analyze that and be really, really strict with yourself about that, because energy is so important. And that's a different level of awareness. My biggest takeaway, because it made me realize that I have to be disciplined enough to not let external things override internal clarity, you guys. Now it's not about what someone does for you. It's about who they are without all of that added on top of it. And if that part doesn't stand on its own, then nothing else really matters. And this is where I had to really check myself again, because we talk about discipline all the time when it comes to money, careers, the gym, routines, but we don't talk enough about discipline in dating. And that's honestly where things can get uncomfortable if you're being real with yourself. Because it's not always about obvious red flags or someone doing something crazy, you guys. Sometimes it's about the things that are said to you directly, and you still choose to stay a little longer than you should. And when I really sat back and replayed certain moments I had endured with that man, I had to be honest with myself. Like, wait, girl, why did you let that slide? Because this is the same man who looked me in my face and said things like, I'll definitely be getting engaged before you. Like it was some kind of competition, you guys. Mind you, that's a big grown 6-foot man, 10 years older than me, saying things like, I'll definitely be getting engaged before you. Ew. Who cares? Like, just go be happy. Literally, go be happy away from me, because you're a fucking weirdo. Seriously. Or like we were racing towards something instead of building anything real. And I remember in the moment, I like laughed it off, because I'm like, because it was very funny in the moment. I'm not going to lie, because it's like, who says things like that? Like, why is this even a competition? But now I'm like, that wasn't a joke or anything to laugh off. That was his literal mindset and his character showing in real time. That's how he viewed things. And then he would say things like, you'll never find another man to love you like I loved you. Which at first, it can sound like confidence, right? But when you really sit with it, that's not love. That's someone trying to limit you. That's someone trying to make themselves feel bigger by making your future feel smaller. And I didn't even fully clock it in the moment the way that I should have. But everything around it felt good. I laughed in that moment too, because it's like, who are you to tell me what my life looks like? Like, how cringy and weird are you to even say stuff like that? But that's competition, and it's very, very, very dangerous, especially when it comes from someone that claimed that they were intimately in love with you and all the things. And there were a lot of other little comments to you guys, some that I don't even care to share, but I'm just giving you a synopsis of like what I had to endure. The kind that doesn't seem big enough individually, but when you stack them all up, they tell a full story about that person and how they look at you. Little things that felt slightly dismissive, slightly competitive, slightly off, moments where instead of just being secure and present, there was this underlying need to compare himself to me, to position himself next to me, to say something that shifted the energy just enough for you to feel it, but not enough to call it out right then, right? And I had to really sit with the fact that none of that comes from confidence at all. Confident people don't have to announce that they're going to do something better than you. Confident people don't have to make you feel smaller about yourself in order for you to see their worth. That comes from insecurity, period. And it's laughable. It's almost it's embarrassing and pathetic, if I'm being honest. That comes from someone who, for whatever reason, felt something about me that they didn't know how to process in a healthy way. Because a secure man is not going to compete with you. He's not going to try to get ahead of you. He's not going to plant little seeds of doubt onto your future. That's not how it works. Y'all, gross. I don't want to be like disgusting, but sometimes you really have to slap yourself for thinking that you're in love with a certain kind of person and just ill. Because at the same time, though, I was being blindsided because he was taking me on trips, like I said, creating experiences that felt elevated. It felt like effort. They feel like something is being built. And that's where it gets tricky because now you're receiving all of this on one end. And on the other end, there's this underlying need or underlying energy that doesn't feel fully right. And if you're not disciplined, you start prioritizing how it feels over what it actually is. Because if I'm being real, I didn't need any of that. Not really. I already had access to that kind of lifestyle on my own. You guys don't know how much I make, but you know that I am doing well for myself. I was doing so well for myself that I made damn near what he was making almost. And we have a 10-year age gap. Imagine what my lifestyle would look like in 10 more years. You never know. So yeah, I had access to that kind of lifestyle on my own. He wasn't doing anything for me that I had never had before or couldn't do on my own, right? So I'm like, why was I even enduring that? It wasn't even anything special. But you know what? It felt good having someone else do it in that moment. It felt easy. It felt like I could relax into it for a second, right? And that's the danger, especially at this stage in life when you're like in your early 30s, when you're 25, you're just now finishing your either bachelor's or master's degree. And you get your first real corporate job. And then you turn 35 years later and you're just expected to just have everything known. But no, 30 is a child still, right? I just turned 32 and it's like I feel like I'm so far ahead of my peers when it comes down to my emotional and spiritual and even mental outlook on things. Like not my friends, I align myself with the right kind of friends, but I look at some of the stuff that people my age do online. I'm just like, you guys, what? Or like I listen to things like what this man told me, the competitive comments, and I'm like, you need to go heal yourself. Really, truly. But you're old enough to know better, you guys. At this age, you really are. You're old enough to know better, but you're young enough to still be open, still be curious, still be willing to explore. You've seen enough to recognize patterns, even if you don't always act on them immediately, right? And that's exactly what this was. I recognized things, but I didn't fully move on them right away because nothing was bad enough, quote unquote, on the surface. But when I finally sat back and stripped everything down, no trips, no gifts, no distractions, just him as a person, his mindset, his words, his patterns, it became very clear that this was someone aligned with not aligned with where I'm going, and I would never entertain anyone like him ever again. I mean, talk about bottom of the barrel. You guys, this is a grown man that would say nasty things to me, who would talk about his own brother. Ew! You guys, once I saw that clearly, everything shifted because now I'm not trying to make sense of it anymore. I'm not trying to justify it. I'm not trying to give it more time. I'm just looking at it for what it is. And from that place, it becomes very easy to detach. And I can honestly say I do not miss that man. Not even a little bit. I talk to my friends and I'm like, you guys, how could you allow me to be that blind for that long? But really, it wasn't that long at all. It was like only not even a year worth of my time. Thank God, right? But there is no part of me that wants to revisit that. No curiosity, no what if, no maybe later. It's just done, clean. And I genuinely, from the depths of my soul, from the bottom of my heart, hope that chapter is closed. Because now that I see it clearly, there's nothing for me to go back to. And this is the part that really shifted everything for me because it wasn't even about the obvious things anymore, you guys. It was about the realization that I was dealing with someone small, very, very, very small. And I got a grounding understanding of who he actually was at his core. And once a woman sees that about a man, there's nothing that man can do to have that woman go back to viewing them the same way. Respect is lost because there's a difference between someone who is growing, evolving, figuring things out, and someone who is just stuck in themselves, right? Stuck in their mindset, stuck in their ego, stuck in how they see the world. And what I started noticing was that everything with him felt surface level when you really looked at it. The conversations didn't go deep in a meaningful way. The way he thought about life wasn't expansive. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't aligned with someone who was actually building something bigger than themselves. And I think that what really hit me was realizing how limited his perspective was. And then that took me to understand how limited the perspective of a lot of people in this world is. The way people view relationships, the way people speak, the way people carry themselves, it all comes from a place that just doesn't match where I am mentally anymore. And once you recognize that, it's like you can't even take certain things personal anymore because you understand it's not about you, it's about their capacity. And that was a big moment for me because instead of trying to analyze him or people or figure out why people are the way they are, I just accepted. Like, this is who y'all are. And this is how y'all think. And I think that's beautiful because it shows individuality. So even though that I'm saying ill, gross, I would never date him again, that's just my own perspective. There could be another woman that meets him and he is every fucking thing she would have ever asked for. It's just about alignment, you guys. And, you know, knowing who you are to know what you want and accepting people for all their differences, the way they think, the way they move. Because if I'm being honest, I know I'm talking a lot of like shit or whatever, but he's not a bad person because he's his own person. Who am I to judge and say his character is flawed? Who am I to judge and say that he's a psychopath? He didn't do anything crazy, but he just did everything that truly doesn't align with the kind of man that I want personally. So again, you accept people for who they are and how they are without trying to change them. You accept how they think, how they move. And then if it doesn't align with you, you say, that's fine, but it's just not for me. I'm not going to make you feel bad about you being yourself. No, it's just not for me. And that level of acceptance removes all the confusion because now you're not trying to change anything or wait for anything to improve. You're just seeing it clearly. And I think a lot of us get stuck because we don't want to label it for what it is. We'll say, oh, they're just figuring things out. They have time. Or the biggest trap we all fall for, I see so much potential in them. But sometimes the reality is much simpler than that. Sometimes you're just dealing with someone who is not operating at the level you require mentally, emotionally, or in how they move through life. And that doesn't make them a bad person, but it does make them the wrong person. You get what I mean? And once I allowed myself to see it that plainly, it's like things just fell even more into place for me. And now I know even more of what I truly need, right? And I can fully allow things that aren't aligned with me to go with no hard feelings, but it's like, no, never again, right? Now I no longer overthink things. I'm not trying to make things deeper than what it is. I'm not trying to give it more meaning. I'm just looking at it for what it is, and what it wasn't enough. And that's a very freeing place to be. Because now there is no confusion attached to it. There is no lingering attachment. There is no part of me trying to hold on to something that I already know doesn't match me. And the way that things ended with this last situation wasn't big or dramatic, you guys. It wasn't like a big argument. It wasn't something he did in that exact moment that made me walk away. It was just truly really random. Like a random Sunday afternoon where I just had a thought. Everything changed. I remember thinking about him that Sunday, like the idea of being back in a situation with him, and I felt immediate, like, disgust. Not even anger, not sadness, just this very clear internal reaction, like, absolutely not. And it caught me off guard because it was so strong and final when the week prior I thought that, oh my God, I want this person back. So I was like, whoa, what is really happening? Like I said, I wasn't angry. It was just like, I was kind of repulsed instantly. Yeah, it was actually very, very strange. I don't know. 'Cause like I said, it caught me off guard. There was no confusion attached to it, no second guessing, just a very firm no. And that's when I started really reflecting, like actually sitting with myself and asking, how did I even get here? How did I ever entertain that man? Because when I removed the distractions and all the glitz and glamour and really looked at it for what it actually was, I had to be honest with myself, y'all, in a way that wasn't comfortable for me. I was I that open to having someone in my space that I allowed myself to overlook the mere fact that this was a man who subtly competed with me, who said things that didn't align with who I really am, who wasn't grounded in anything real. And it wasn't even about him at that point. It was about me. It was very sobering moment for me because how desperate could I have been to even allow myself to entertain that, or maybe not even desperate? How heartbroken from the previous relationship was I to even allow that and allow myself to be distracted by that, even temporarily? Because this wasn't someone who was building anything stable. I mean, materialistically, yeah, but everybody can get a job and house. That's nothing special. This wasn't someone who could match me mentally, emotionally, or in any direction that I'm going. This was someone who talked a certain way, presented a certain way, but couldn't actually walk in it consistently. And once I was really sad with that, it just didn't sit right in my system anymore, you guys. And that's where the feeling shifted from confusion to clarity. And then from clarity to just complete detachment, not hatred, not bitterness, none of that. Because I don't hate him. I don't feel anything strong towards him at all. And I think that's the part that really shows me where I am now. It's just neutral. Like I see you for exactly who you are. And I understand that you are not someone I would ever, ever, ever choose again. I don't care. There's nothing that would ever make me go back to that. Nothing, you guys. And I think that was the biggest realization for me because now it's not emotional, it's logical and it's embodied. And I feel like my standards are forever raised. Like just because a man promises to, or he gets you a few little trinkets here and there and promises you this crazy future doesn't mean he's actually man enough to even deal with it. Especially when that person is constantly left by significant others. You have to look at that too. If they're the ones constantly being broken up with, it's just a different no, you guys. It's not like, no, absolutely not. So, like I said, it ended with clarity. And what this whole experience did for me was shift how I approach love entirely because now I'm in a space where I'm genuinely not like chasing it or looking for it. And I actually mean that. Not in a defensive way, not in a I'm done with men type of energy, none of that. Of course not. I have too many friends right now, but we're just friends. It's more like I'm so clear on myself now that I don't feel the need to go out and find anything to fill a space. There is no space in me that needs to be filled. And I think that's a very different place to operate from because before, even if you're not actively searching, there's still a part of you that's open in a way that can be a little too flexible. Like you're willing to see where things go. You're willing to entertain. You're willing to give something a chance, even if it's not fully aligned yet. And now it's not that I'm closed off. It's just that I'm precise. I know what aligns with me now. I'm not entertaining anything that isn't for me. And it's not because of anything angry. It's just like it's beneath me. I don't have the time for it. There's so many people out here and so many people that I actually do connect with. I'm not going to waste my time forcing a connection with someone that really isn't aligned anymore. It's just not important, really. Because after sitting with everything and really seeing everything for what it was, like I said, I understand what misalignment feels like in real time now. I understand how easy it is for things to look good on the surface, but not actually hold weight underneath. And once you experience that level of clarity, you don't give the same access, you don't entertain the same things, you don't override your own awareness just to keep something going. It's just like, it is what it is. And you truly are okay. So now it's like, I'm focused on my life. I'm focused on what I'm building, where I'm going, how I'm moving, and I'm genuinely fulfilled in doing that, you guys. I don't need a relationship like that to enhance it. Now, again, like I said, I do have friends. I'm not just out here like hermit mode in the house all day, but it's just like I am very specific on like who gets my full emotional time. because the ball is in my court. Like the ball is always in your court. You get to decide. Everything is a choice. You know what I'm saying? So you don't need anyone to come in and validate anything for you or about you. And because of that, there's no pressure attached to meeting someone. The people that I've been meeting the past few months have been literally unexpected in the best way. And I have been building such great friendships with them because we met in alignment without attachment to an outcome or already pre-planning this hypothetical future and putting all these expectations of love and relationships on each other. It's just free. No one's rushing. And that's how you truly connect. When you stop chasing an outcome or looking at a checkbox of things, right? And that's what I was just enduring in the previous relationship. It was a checkbox of everything gross. But I'm saying gross to me, not him, because I should be better. I had a checkbox. Throw the damn list away, you guys. I'm telling you, throw that list you have, throw the damn list away. You don't stop trying to control everything in your own life. Just let it be. And anyone who comes at you with all these rigid requirements and expectations and wants and needs and all that, remove yourself, because anyone searching for a certain something outside of themselves is always going to be searching for it, whether they're with you or not. Take it from me. Take it from me. I'm not bending my life to make something fit anymore. I'm not adjusting my standards to accommodate someone else's limitations. I'm not entertaining things just because they're there or because they feel good in the moment. And that shift alone makes everything feel lighter because now there's no internal conflict. And I think that's the biggest difference, you guys. Before, there might have been moments where I was trying to make something make sense, right? Trying to give it more time, trying to make things work, trying to see the potential. Now, there's none of that. It either aligns or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, it's okay. It's just not for me, but it could be for the person sitting right next to me. And who am I to block someone else's blessing? You know what I'm saying? It's a very calm place to be, you guys, because now love is not something I'm chasing. And it's not something you find either. Love finds you when it's ready. But you have to be ready for yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to pour into yourself and truly enjoy this life that you have been given. And let love and life meet you where you already are. And if it doesn't, okay, you're still good. I think the biggest shift for me through all of this, you guys, is how I now look at attention. Because before, even when you're aware, even when you have standards, there's still a part of you that can get caught up in someone choosing you. And that's very human. That's very natural, right? Someone showing interest, someone putting in effort, someone being consistent in their own way. It can feel like something worth exploring just because it's there. But now I see it completely different because just because someone wants you, just because they're pursuing you, just because they're willing to spend on you or show up in certain ways, that doesn't mean they're qualified to be in your life forever. And it sounds simple, but it hits different when you actually apply it. When I look back, there was effort, there was interest, there was consistency in certain areas, but none of that matters if the foundation isn't there. None of that matters if the mindset isn't aligned, if the energy isn't grounded, if the way they move doesn't match the level you're operating on, remove it. And that's what I had to really lock in for myself because attention without alignment is just noise. And a lot of us have an issue with confusing love and proximity. And if you don't know what that means, open up your Safari, Google, or ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever you use, and type in what is the difference between love and proximity, and see if that's something that you've confused too. I think that's where a lot of people get stuck because they confuse being chosen with being matched. They think because someone is investing time or energy or money, that automatically makes them a good option. But those are two completely different things. Someone can choose you and still not be able to meet you where you are. So now it's not about who likes me or who wants me, who is showing up. It's about who actually fits. Who can stand next to me without needing to compete with me, without needing to prove something, without trying to shrink or shift the dynamic to make themselves feel more comfortable, because that's the real standard, you guys. And that shift takes discipline too, trust me, because it means you're not entertaining things just because they're available to you. Everyone's available. Literally, you guys, everyone is available. So it's like, get specific on what you waste your time with. You don't give access just because someone is trying. You're not impressed by surface level effort anymore, remember? You're looking deeper. You're observing. You're deciding from a place of clarity instead of emotion. Because at that point, you're not confused anymore on what you want or what you need. You're not second guessing yourself. You're not trying to make something work that just doesn't naturally fit. You just know. And that's where I'm at now. There is no need to revisit anything, no need to keep the doors open, no need to entertain anything that doesn't align with the life that I'm building. Because I understand my value. But more importantly, I understand what actually matches it, and that changes everything. So yeah, that was my realization, you guys. And that's what I just had to endure the past year. And it's April, and I'm just now getting back to myself from October, November. So I'm really thankful for that. But honestly, I'm glad it happened the way that it did because it didn't leave me confused. It didn't leave me heartbroken. It didn't leave me questioning myself in a way that took me backwards. It did the opposite. It sharpened me, you guys. It made me more aware, more disciplined, even more feminine, if I'm being honest, more clear about what I'm available for and what I'm not. And I think that's the part people don't talk about enough. Not every ending is a loss, you guys. Some endings are just corrections. There are moments where you finally see something for what it is without trying to soften it, without trying to give it more meaning than it does. And once you see that clearly, you don't feel emotional about it anymore. You just feel done. And that's exactly how I feel. There's no anger, no resentment. There's absolutely no what if. It's just clarity. And I trust that clarity enough to not go backwards, to not revisit, to not entertain anything I already know doesn't align with me. Because at the end of the day, I'm building a life that requires a certain level of mindset, discipline, and alignment. And I'm not willing to compromise that just because something looks good on the surface. I've already seen what happens when you ignore what you know. And I'm just not available for that version of myself anymore. So now I move differently. Not guarded, not closed off, just clear. If this episode hit, you already know what to do. Send it to someone who needs to hear it, or keep it to yourself and just move accordingly. And if you want to stay connected, you already know where to find me, you guys. Instagram at ForbesManda_ and email me at info@balancedestiny.com. I will see y'all in the next episode because we're not just talking about life, we're actually evolving through it. I love you all so very much. Bye.